Hi, it's Joel. I know it's been a while. I've been thinking about trying something new, and for most of my career, I've been a composer contributing to other things. Making music for a game or for a product or for an experience. And I love doing that. I love collaborating. I really thrive on working with someone else, figuring out what their needs are, tailoring those needs to a project. But I also love writing music, and for the past, I guess my whole career, I've written a lot of music, and one of the things that I've always wanted to do is share it, but for whatever reason I've kind of kept it in my back pocket for a really long time and haven't really shared much of it. So if you look at my Spotify, it's all game soundtracks, which is great. I don't want to change that, I just want to add to it. So one of the things that I've decided to do is release an album. And I think what a lot of people do when they decide to make an album is make an album. But I'm going to do something a little different because I've already got all this music. That's one of the things I realized when I started thinking, hey, I want to release something, is I've got hours and hours of material. So what you can see here is it's a whole bunch of tracks that I've curated. This is all stuff from probably over the past maybe 10 years or so. I'm not going to share everything for my whole career because frankly a lot of the stuff I wrote really early on isn't worth sharing, but I have a lot of stuff that I think is, and so this is at least all of it for now that I've decided to include. I may change this, I may add to it, I may get rid of some of this. I've already talked about this a little bit on Instagram, but the parts that I haven't talked about yet are this idea that I want this album to be a multiple chapter experience. To me, conceptualizing each section of it in a way that's meaningful is a good concept, and I think it helps me sort of take all this work that I've done over the past however many years and curate it into something that feels like it has a flow and feels like it makes sense. So to me, this kind of follows a cyclical paradigm, which I think is a pretty universal way to think about really any kind of storytelling. It could follow a life cycle, it could follow a relationship, it could follow a career, but it's this idea of birth and rebirth. So the first chapter is awakening, the next is innocence, as you sort of kind of learn about your environment and become inspired. The next is bliss, the next is uncertainty, adjustment, then reckoning, then acceptance, and rebirth. So what I'm planning on doing is releasing each of these separately, and what I am really excited about is doing them regularly. Like maybe we'll do a monthly release of each of these. And so this is already something I'm figuring out. So I already see an inconsistency here. So there's a track called "This Is the Waiting Room" that we'll listen to in a second that I think I actually maybe want to put first. So I'm going to be doing a lot of this, moving things around, seeing if things work, maybe adding things, maybe taking things away. So let's go back to our session here, and let's find that track Tundra Lichen that is also something that I want to include probably in this first chapter. So this idea of the first chapter here is this feeling of suspension and feeling frozen. Tracks. Let's play a little bit of each of them. So you've heard the one called Patience. Here's one called "This Is the Waiting Room." This one also has this kind of very suspended, frozen feeling. We can skip around in it. And in some ways, these tracks back to back have a very similar mood and tone. And that's kind of the idea. This may not work on a traditional album. You probably wouldn't want to put similar tracks back to back, but on this, I'm sort of into the idea. Let's listen to a little bit of Tundra Lichen, which is something I already shared on YouTube and is one of my favorite tracks from the past, several years. Track I want to share is the track "When I Break the Rules." So one of the things that I really enjoy is establishing a rule set. So we've got this frozen feeling of suspension, and then the last track in this first chapter, at least kind of what I'm thinking so far, is this track called "The Other Me" that breaks it. So I'm a big fan of rule sets and creating rule sets. And then sometimes the best way to create variation and actually define the rule set is just to break it a little bit. So this track is meant to sort of symbolize the feeling of rebirth and leaving your other self behind. So it has more of a sense of forward motion, and it's called The Other Me. It's a song with lyrics and vocals. So let me mute this first. I'm doing a little mastering as I'm going along here. So let's listen to this track. This is definitely one of my favorites too of the last several years. And right now this is bypassed. I'm playing with this new plugin called Bloom from Oak Sound that I am really enjoying, and I figured let's have fun by kind of learning a new tool as I'm putting this stuff together. I'm pretty happy with this mix, but overall I think it lacks a little bit of high-end definition and a little bit of low-end punch, so I've kind of dialed that stuff in here. Let's see if you can hear the difference when I bypass it. It's subtle, but mastering should be subtle. I think it just gives you a little bit more punch, a little bit more sheen up top. Let's skip to the section with vocals. So that's all I'll share for today. I'm really excited about this project. To me, it's not just about getting music out there to coexist with my game soundtracks on Spotify, although that's a big part of why I'm excited. It's really about kind of curating all this music that I've already written and adding to it and getting this body of work out there that's really meaningful to me. So thanks for listening. Please let me know if you have any thoughts, questions, requests, if you want to do a breakdown, if you want to hear more. I'll probably keep sharing this stuff if it's interesting. I'll share maybe material that I've decided to not put on the album, material that I'm debating whether or not to put on the album. So this will be kind of somewhat of a living project until I get it out there. But thanks for watching, and a lot more soon.